Yes, please.
Commissioners Brown,
Present.
Harris,
Present.
Hurd,
Present.
McCracken. Present. Harris, absent. Vice Chair Little, absent. Chairman Mercy.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, first up, consent calendar, which is approval of the minutes. Is there any objection to approving the minutes as presented?
No objection.
Hearing none, the minutes are approved. Commission staff presentations and reports. LA County Sheriff's Department.
Hello, good morning, everybody. My name is Deputy Lawrence Green. I'm your Community Relations Deputy for Lancaster Sheriff Station. Today we'll be going over our city comp stats for the month of December 2023. Normally I go 2 months back to get you the most accurate stats possible from my crime analysts. Okay, here we have a 5-year and 1 year comparison. What I'll be going over is that far right column. I'd like to do a 1 year and change the date so you can get an idea of the difference in change. Criminal homicide for the month of December in the city of Lancaster is up by 146.15%. If we go to forcible rape, we are down by 9%. The next category will be robbery, down by 5%. Aggravated assault, down by 1.37%. Burglary, far right column, 10%, we're gonna be down. Larceny and theft was actually down in the month of December as well, which is good, 12%. Grand theft auto up slightly by 5%. Arson up slightly, 10%. And your total part 1 crimes total are down by a total of 4%. These are actually good changes in the month of December. Usually for the holidays, larceny and theft will go up, but for this year, it actually went down. Any questions so far?
I do. In a couple of the areas for the Grand Theft Auto, obviously that's remained high. How was your event that you had recently with the...
Are you talking about the Hyundai event?
Correct.
Yes, that was actually successful. We had a good turnout. The trap team was doing everything they can, and we were able to hand out clubs for the cars that actually weren't qualified for that upgrade. So that's awesome. The community reaches out to me regularly for clubs. So for those listening online, if you guys need clubs, let me know. Give me a call. My desk number is 661-940-3834, and I'll let you know if there's any clubs at the station you can actually put on your car. Believe it or not, that old school way of protecting your vehicle works the best. So, any additional questions?
Yeah.
Is it,
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
is it free and provided?
Yes, the clubs are completely free, and I will hand them out. You just have to bring in your registration for your vehicle so we know what cars are getting them.
Okay.
Great. On your arson count, that is also still high on here. What are you finding are the homes, businesses, out in the field?
Yeah, I really couldn't tell you. It'd be up to the host team to see what they're running into. But you know, you have to take into consideration the cold weather and the fires that are restarted. You know, to keep the homeless warm. They may get out of control, but that's unintentional. That's not arson. So I don't really have that answer for you. It'll be more of the arsons and explosives team. I would have to get that information from.
Can you maybe report something next meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any additional questions? No. All right. Your arrest stats for the year, they have slightly gone up for the month of December. We're at 401, up from 337 from the previous year for the month of December. These are going to be your hot spots for the month of December. Pretty much the area of Lancaster Boulevard, that district over there up to 10th Street West is where your main hot spots will be. And you have some over at Avenue K in the business district and 10th Street West, just to give you an idea. And remember, these hot spots are part 1 crime, so they cover pretty much everything, robbery, burglary, theft. It doesn't have a specific a crime attached to that dark spot on the map. Any questions? Okay. Here's your calls for service. This was added from my crime analyst. So your calls for service was requested. They wanted to get an idea of not just the actual crime, but what areas are called at the most. So our crime analyst has actually put together a hotspot to give you an idea of who's calling within the city, the areas that are calling the most. And as you can see here, let me see if I can get, because I'm blind, I can't really see that well from here. I can give you an idea of what areas are calling. So if we look on here, it looks like just south of Avenue I, north of Lancaster Boulevard, you're going to have a dark spot from there. There's a lot of apartment buildings over there. So there's a lot of activity over there where calls for service will come in. Then you have a couple of dark spots. Looks like it's going to be Challenger Way in Avenue J. And then just south of J in Division. And then you have another one over here on, looks like 15th West and J. All of those are medical buildings on 15th West and J, legal buildings, stuff like that. I have seen a lot of activity over there as well. So it's more of, and it will shift depending on, you know, how well we hit that area, and then the calls for service will slow down, and then it'll move to another location. Oh yes, you see that dot all the way, it says, we have what are called reporting districts. It says 1159. That gives us an idea, it's kind of like a mapper for our reference. 1159 reporting district is, yeah, it's exactly, it's more just outside, well, I would say it's considered city, but it's also a county mixture. It's like a hybrid. That hotspot looks like it's going to be 60th West and about J8. And I believe that area has a new building structure over there where they're building new housing. So that right there, I don't know. It could be calls for service regarding the people that are actually doing the building over there, because we have reports of tools getting stolen out of the workers' trucks, things of that nature. So things like that could cause that hot spot as well.
Any ideas how many calls came in for that month?
No, I can get you the stats. Cap, you don't have any stats as far as calls for service? Okay. No, but I can get you
If we
those
can include
stats,
that
and
in
I'll
our
send it
report.
to Kathleen via email, so that way everybody can have them.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions?
And I'll just add that hotspot area that shows around 15th West and J, that really encompasses a lot of the calls that we go to at the hospital. So if there's an assault victim or somebody that comes to the hospital and they generate, we go there to take that report. That's why we generally do have a lot of calls for service right there in that area. It's traditionally because of the hospital.
Any more additional questions? No? We'll be moving on. Here are your crime definitions for everything that has been listed. If you have any questions, please refer to this page to get the details of what constitutes as that particular crime. All of our data sources are gathered through social media. We use everything from Facebook, Instagram, for missing persons and gathering information as well. If you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me. I do manage a social media website for community engagement as well. And that'll be the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Probation. Short timer.
What's that?
Short timer.
Yeah,
Counting the
truly.
days.
I can only, days are counting. Happy Valentine's to everyone. Busy month as we turned it for the first of the year. We have an increase in our global positioning systems. We're seeing a lot more people. A couple years ago, we started with one person on a contract to come into our office and utilize that tool of GPS. We have now 5. The courts have released people on GPS, so most of them are not on probation, but they do come to our office, and so hopefully that's helping deter people from being rearrested, and we can. We're also being allowed more often to, if we have victims, because of the change in some of the guidelines and things of that. We're being allowed to utilize not just sex offenders, but maybe domestic violence people that have a history of trying to remain transient or homeless on paper. but we're also asking the courts to allow us to place GPS on them so we know that they're not near the victim or trying to reside with the victim under the radar, if you will. We still have the same amount of deputies. We are adding one more, though. We're hope to in the near future. We lost one to join OSS. He's currently, I believe, in Lancaster. We have an injured deputy who will be returning to work soon, and then he'll probably join the Palmdale area. So their program will each have a deputy probation officer to assist on certain things that they're to assist the deputies for LASD. Our mobile resource unit is grounded at the time because of some changes. The gentleman that was the coordinator is the one that went to OSS. So we're looking to replace him, and they may even remove the MRC unit down to the San Fernando Valley, which is joint ownership of that for our region. But they'll still service San Luis Valley. But that's, for this month, it's going to be grounded. But we're looking to update that schedule in the near future so we can continue on what we're doing. Due to the chief's orders of our department of having people deployed into juvenile hall, we've had to minimize the amount of time that we are out in the community with our mobile unit. And so we were probably seeing close to 100 of our clients, probationers in the community when they couldn't make it to the office. And so our mobile office was able to at least see face-to-face and go over things and offer services, including the INVEST program that you heard Ms. Hearn speak about a few months ago, and other different things of securing housing, securing certain things that may be helpful to them to stay on the right path. So we're hoping that that will return in the near future, very near future if we can. Violations are staying about average 15 to 20 per month. Most of them are absconding. They're just not reporting and not returning, the majority. And again, you know, with the probation officers being deployed a minimum of 40% of their work week, so 2 days a week, they're actually doing a great job of maintaining their caseloads. And right now, during training sessions where they're doing de-escalation training, policy training, refresher courses and things of that nature, pepper spray, if you will, training, updating training and stuff. So they're a little swamped and overwhelmed at times, but they're doing the best they can and do due diligence to maintain the security and safety of our communities through probation. Our office reporting seems to be solid and good. It's still, people are still coming in. So we're getting to see them face to face, which is always going to be a benefit. So that's a good thing. And then the last thing is our special enforcement officers. There's a team that's out here that goes and searches houses that are either high profile, high risk, if you will. So those are marked, and then we go knock on their doors maybe more often, do a complete home search, a compliance check, removing weapons, if anything, and making arrests at that time. So they're doing a good job of their team up here of seeing the people in the Antelope Valley. You know, one of the things about the Antelope Valley is that it's real easy to be forgotten since we're so far away from our main office stuff. So we do really, it depends. And it's the work of not just the supervisors and the directors and the probation officers to maintain that we are not forgotten and we have operations to conduct so that way we can have safer streets in communities. So that's all I have for today. If you have any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Have a good day.
Highway Patrol.
Good morning, everyone. As far as we're still continuing to try and build up our staffing, I've got 4 new officers in training right now, which are going to offset 4 that are actually transferring out March 1st. But then I have another 3 new officers that are expected to arrive from the academy in a few months. So that'll continue to boost what we're trying to do. We pulled some numbers from last year, and we average around 8,000 calls for service a year, with approximately 45 officers responding to that. Most of 50% of our calls are on the 14, and we're continuing to address the 14 in the construction zone and outside of that. The result of our officers have actually increased enforcement contacts considering our staffing decrease, where they're still making roughly almost 4,500 enforcement contacts just in fourth quarter alone last year, which did result in 166 DUI arrests and almost 3,000 citations issued. during that time frame. There were other arrests made for felony violations and things of that nature. Again, all of these statistics that I'm reciting are all unincorporated areas. So we don't gather statistics for anything that we do within the city, either for Lancaster or Palmdale. Everything we do is in the unincorporated areas because that's the communities that we serve directly as a state agency. We continue to work with our partners and make sure we maximize everything for the city as well as the unincorporated areas, and we'll continue doing that. We are going to be adding a new public information officer. Officer Michaud has done a valiant job in taking care of business for the last almost 5 years and has done an exceptional job. And we're now going to give Officer Church a turn at the wheel. He's going to be running all the things that we have for our outreach actions, as well as our Explorer posts that we are building up, as well, and our senior volunteer program, which is robust as it is. And that's pretty much all that I have.
Okay, thank you. Well, definitely big shoes to fill, but look forward to working with you. Any questions for CHP? Okay, great. Thank you very much. District Attorney.
Good morning. I have filing stats for you all. These are our felony filing stats for the months of December and January. In the area of arson, we did not file any cases. In terms of auto burglaries, it looks like we filed 1 case in December, 1 in January. Residential and commercial burglaries, December we filed 7 felonies, and January we filed 8. Criminal threats, that month we filed 4 felony criminal threats cases and 2 in the month of January. Regarding drug sales, there were no filings in December, 2 in the month of January. In the area of domestic violence, in December we filed 4 cases, 2 in January. With hit and runs and felony evading cases, there were no filings in the month of December, 2 in January. Felony assaults, we filed quite a number of cases. In the month of December, there were 17 felony filings and 23 filings in the month of January. Excuse me. And then I'll just note here, with domestic violence cases, with these stats, when they're compiled, they're only based on the specific charge that's alleged in the complaint. So you might see 273.5. That's a traditional domestic violence charge. That number is just that 273.5 charge. In the area of felony assaults, that includes every other type of assault that might be domestic related. So that could be an assault with a deadly weapon. And it could be domestic violence related, but it's not under that domestic violence category in these stats. So for January, let me take a step back. December, in felony DUI area, we filed no cases, and in January, the number is the same. In the area of grand thefts and identity theft, the month of December, there were 4 felony filings, 13 in the month of January. Illegal firearms, 4 filings in the month of December, 10 in the month of January. We filed 5 murder cases in December, 2 in January. Robberies, we filed 5 felonies, or all robberies are felonies, but we filed 5 cases in December, January 13. Sex crimes, 3 in December, 2 January. Felony vandalism, 1 December, 2 January. Violations of protective orders, 9 in December, 11 in January. And so you'll see it appears that we have filed more cases, I think felony cases in January than December. We recently brought over a new person to our filing division, our charge evaluation division, and that has helped us get through some of our backlog, and I think that accounts for the number of additional filings that we have. All right, that's all I have for you. If you have any questions.
Yes, is there any way we could get a copy of that
Yes.
report? Because I'm sitting there trying to keep up with you, and I'm losing half the
All right,
information.
I'll make sure you all get copies of it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So one thing that I was curious about is we had a couple of the areas that were so high in, like arson, for instance.
Yes.
And we had no cases submitted. Is that because it wasn't considered a felony?
It
We
could
don't
be
have
there-
a victim, we don't have a,
So there could be a lot of
Suspect.
factors. I've noticed that a lot of times we get the filings late. A packet is, the defendant or the suspect is not arrested right away. They may be arrested later. An investigation has to take place, and then the case is presented to our filing division. They may take time to review a case before filing. They could ask for further investigation, and that could delay a filing as well. We also have to look at our filing standards. When we file, that we look at the case to see if we can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. We're looking to see, can we obtain that conviction? That doesn't mean that we won't take a case that's difficult to prove, but we have to believe that there's sufficient evidence to support a conviction before a case is filed, so that could be a factor. Also, I have seen some arsons that were domestic violence related, so it might be categorized in a different area. It could be that there was a murder with an arson. And so it could be that the arson charges are filed with or documented in other areas, because our stats, we're looking at the top charge.
Okay.
And so you may have, like I said, the domestic violence of 273.5, but there was an arson with that case, or there was a residential burglary and an arson was connected with that, so it's documented in a different way.
so yours is the main,
Yes.
main thing that they're being charged with. Okay,
Any other questions?
thank you.
I just want to, I believe we sent you some of the link from the last meeting. I know you weren't able to attend, but we had a number of people that came regarding the teacher who was murdered in Palmdale, and wanted to make sure that that got to your attention, that, you know, there's just a lot of friends and family members very concerned about that, not just because the individual never should have been out after beating the heck out of another person. You know, just want to make sure that those, the victim's family and friends are taken into account in their requests.
Yes, absolutely. I know that the case is in very good hands. It's actually assigned to our sex crimes division, and a special prosecutor is assigned to the case. We have a victims assistance program, and they reach out to victims on cases, provide services, some through the state. Their funeral and burial expenses can be paid. Also, counseling, if that's needed, that is worked out through our victims assistance program. But we also keep very close contact with next of kin and interested parties on those cases.
Okay. And then, and another case, and the chief or captain may be able to help, is the robbery on, of the mini mart on 10th and K. This was about 2 months ago. I know Vice Chair Little had asked about it previously. If you know the details on that, because we're trying to find the status of it. My understanding is there's been no charges yet.
You know, I'm not certain about that. I would have to look into the case to see if there's,
Okay.
if there's been a filing.
That's the assault at the Chevron that was played at City Council? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. It's my understanding, I spoke to the detective today, that charges were filed.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't have the return yet to know which charges were filed, but it's my understanding that charges were filed in that case.
Oh, okay.
All right, and if you can give me the urn, I can look into it to see what was filed.
I will.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay.
Morning, Commission, I had one thing for you. I wanted to answer, I looked up those statistics that you wanted for calls for service. And I don't have by month, but I can break them down that way or divide them. But for 2023, Lancaster Station had 82,859 specific calls for service. In addition, we had 46,792 observations, which observations traditionally are when deputies conduct traffic stops or initiate, self-initiated activities. So we do consider them a call for service. They could even be calls that we don't call a call for service, but they could be generated at the local schools also, where specifically the staff comes to the deputy and he initiates a call. So most of those observations are going to also be calls for service. That's a total of 129,651 for 2023, which averages out to about 10,804 per month. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, public safety update, Chief Arbelin.
Hope I don't hit an emergency button. Good morning. My colleague over there just figured that out per month, 7,000 calls a month. It's a busy place, very busy place. In fact, the busiest.
10,000
10,000
observations.
10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, the busiest out of all LA County sheriff stations. Amazing. So, boy, there's a lot going on. I don't even know where to start, to be honest with you, but it's good to see all of you. I haven't been able to make meetings lately because I've been going every which way trying to put this thing together and continue to do good work along with all our partners over there. So I want to pass a few things on. Last night, if you saw the council meeting, we swore in my Assistant Chief, Chris Roberts. Chris is fantastic. I've always believed in the areas that you're not super strong in, find somebody who's strong in it. And Chris is super strong in technology and things like that. And we've been having some great advancements, bringing different technologies in. And I'm going to point a couple things that we're looking at out to you momentarily here. So we're excited about that. We are going through about to go through the interview process for our police officers. We had tons of applicants, and we had identified a solid 20 that we want to interview. So those interview processes will be starting in early March, probably first or second week in speaking to HR. We're going to do it a little differently. But some of you are familiar with, I believe in bringing the community in to help us make our decisions. So we're going to have a community panel, once again, help select those police officers so we can have community input and ensure we're selecting the right individuals. We're going to be picking up 6 to begin, 6 officers. And initially, they'll probably be doing, the thing they'll do the most initially is help us put this thing together because there's a lot, especially when you consider, the policy. We're reviewing all our policies right now, which is a lot. You have to absolutely read every policy and make sure it fits, and then several levels of approvers. So that's just a little piece of it, but we're getting there, and we're excited. We think probably, I feel like they'll be on board by, I'll just say late April, maybe May. May. We'll just say May. They'll be on board, and we'll really start to run then. And we'll be doing some of the work that we've been doing already with the Sheriff's Department. We're going to continue to do that. And when they get on, it's going to help even more. Our law enforcement technicians that we initially brought on to help with response times, the Sheriff's Department did a fantastic job getting them trained up, and they are now signed off and working on their own. And in speaking to Captain Bartlett, they're already having a great effect on response times. And I've actually spoke to some citizens who's like, man, that's fantastic. I called, they were here in a matter of hours, and I got the service that I needed. So that was a real good pickup for us, or first entry into employment. So we're going to look at getting more down the road here and training them up and having more individuals to go and take some of those lesser calls away from the Sheriff's Department. Our block clubs are doing extremely well. We've been increasing steadily. I apologize, I don't have the total number that we have right now, but we're seeing more and more block clubs form. And as everybody knows, those are highly important because we have to hear from the community on what's going on out there. And Deputy Green's been instrumental in helping us get those meetings and get people interested in it. But we also started our business watch groups, and that thing has really taken off. We're up to 40 business watch groups, and I don't know how many. I don't think the city had any before we started, or maybe they did in the past and they kind of fell off, but those are going really well and instrumental because one of the things we want to do is ensure that our businesses are safe, and also the mayor gave me direction to put together a kind of a safe shopping program. So we're going to work with the Sheriff's Department to ensure that especially our mini marts in our big areas like the Walmart are safe. He received some complaints from some folks not feeling safe going into those locations. So working with Paul, we're putting together a plan right now that I hope to throw into place in March to not only make them safer, but make people feel safer. So illegal after-hours club, we continue to get those. We shut down, I think, two since the start of the year, and we got one in December as well. And as you know, I've told you about these before. These are folks who are basically running nightclubs without any permitting or licensing. And they usually do them out of businesses, but we are finding them at houses every now and then. So our approach to everything is try to get compliance, go up, let them know what the problem is, and hopefully get them to comply. And if they don't and they continue, then we look at our enforcement strategies. But we've been effective in closing them down. And we're really paying attention to whether or not they cause violence in the community or they cause issues or put a drain on the sheriff's department. And those are the ones that we're absolutely getting to. I was gonna give you a bunch of numbers on our code enforcement and homeless outreach team, but they've done so much great work that I asked Mr. Noga to come next meeting and give you guys a full report on it, because I mean, they just had an incredible year of dealing with homeless issues, code enforcement issues, illegal parking issues. So he's gonna put together a nice presentation for you guys on that. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about, we received the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant again, and I think the city's received that for several years. So we got it again, and we received $1.1 million to do some things with. And so I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what we're looking at doing with the monies. So first up is we realize we have a driving problem in the city, a traffic problem. And so, like I said, our approach has always been, or is going to be and has always been, let's educate, let's try and get compliance, and then we go with other means if we don't. So we're looking at purchasing several of these and putting them around the city, these fixed radar signs. These things have proven to be really effective because they slow people down. And you know what's interesting is, because I know I'm guilty, a lot of times you don't realize how fast you're going. But when you see that thing start flashing and say, hey, you're doing 40 miles an hour and it's supposed to be 25, it wakes people up and it gets them to slow down. So we want to purchase some of these and put them around the city and look at it as another version of education and warning to drivers. We're purchasing additional handheld radar, and that'll be for the sheriff's department as well as our officers. And we're also looking at purchasing dash-mounted radar. Just, for accuracy in sighting, that's probably the best way to go. So we're going to increase our technology there. And then we're looking at, for crime prevention, we're looking at video analytics, and also, we're setting up our police station. And by the way, I apologize, I didn't tell you that, but on Wednesday, the 28th, we're going to have the groundbreaking for our police station, our public safety building, which is the old Antelope Valley High School District building. So be great if you folks are able to come out for that groundbreaking. It's going to be at 10 o'clock. And within that structure, we're building a real-time crime center. And I don't believe the Valley has anything like that, but that's basically going to be a place where we can tie in all our cameras, video analytics, technology, intelligence, and pay attention to what's going on, not just in our city, but in the Valley and also internationally, because we have folks that are being trained up to be tied into the intelligence network. And we absolutely realize that not just what happens in Palmdale, but what happens in LA and what happens in Boston can easily make its way into our city. So we want to be tied into those networks, know what's going on, what's trending, and get with the other public service entities and figure a way to keep it out of our city or deal with it if it comes into our city. We're going to be purchasing additional cameras. I know for a fact, Mr. Noga's working on upgrading the cameras on the boulevard, but we're also looking at purchasing additional cameras in the city to give us the ability to pay attention to what's going on. And we're absolutely giving access to those cameras to the CHP as well as the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's Department already has access. We're working with the CHP to give them access as well, so they can have the ability to pay attention to what's happening and use it to help with investigations. Automatic license plate reader cameras, flock cameras, worth their weight in gold. The captain will tell you. We're working on getting access to the highway patrol for those. Those things have been money well spent. They've been incredible in not only identifying wanted vehicles that come into our city, but they've also been really instrumental in solving cases and investigations. I know the Sheriff's Department uses them quite often to locate vehicles. If you recall, we sadly had that 4-year-old murdered on Sierra Highway, and those cameras were instrumental in helping the Sheriff's Department find those suspects just a few hours after they committed that murder. So we're looking at increasing these cameras. In fact, the mayor ordered me last night to cover the whole city with flock cameras. So,
Question on that specific case. My understanding is that the suspect arrested was released under the state AB 109 or Prop 4757. Is that accurate?
I don't know if you can speak on that, Paul, or not.
Yeah, I believe he was released in November on a PERCS.
Yeah.
So,
So as I just say thank you for everything you and your team are doing and our local law enforcement. Unfortunately, we're not just fighting crime, we're fighting state and county policies that make us less safe.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Thank you. And it is tough. There's, I don't know, a lot of times I feel like we're looking more towards, rights of the suspect instead of the victim. So we got to figure this thing out. So we are definitely looking at bringing more of these cameras, and all that will be tied into our real-time crime center. So we're excited about that because, like I said, they are one of the best things out there. And I love that line about takes human bias out of crime solving. It absolutely does, because that's one of the things that law enforcement continuously gets beat up on. These things are just looking for something that's wanted, looking for a vehicle that's wanted or involved in a crime. And they let you know, and that's that. So now this I'm extremely excited about, and this is the last thing I have for you today. We are bringing I'm sorry, I want to get to my notes here, 180-degree immersive training simulator. So basically, this is a simulator where officers can go in and get as close as you can to a real incident, going through training. This thing is, each one of those panels, don't quote me, but I think each one of those panels is around 15 feet or so in length and about 10 to 12 feet high. So the officers get to deal with a life-size figure. And the individual or the movie is controlled by the evaluators. So they can make that person do whatever they want them to do. There's about 1,000 preloaded scenarios in there, but you also have the ability to recreate new scenarios or new incidents and incidents that may have happened that you want to give training to your officers to. So we're talking about improving officer interaction with the public and officer engagement. And I love it because you're not just talking about the critical incidents, but you're also talking about highly emotional incidents. let's say, a domestic violence incident. You know, you can recreate that or create a domestic violence incident and give that officer the ability to go in and go through it. And they control the actor, so if he does and says the right thing, they can bring that person down and get compliance. Or if he doesn't, they can bring it up and cause him to try and change his approach. There are incidents where the officer has to use deadly force, but they're given the opportunity to try and talk this person into what we need them to do. Mental health scenarios, you name it. So we're highly excited about that. You can actually totally immerse him in it. You can wrap the thing around to where he has to deal with a moving subject that goes around and decides how to handle it. When we get that, we're absolutely going to offer it to the Sheriff's Department. They have a similar one, but it's down at Biscayne Center down in East LA, and they have some small portable ones they use for mental health training. So we're going to offer that to them as well as a CHP. They'll be willing to come in and bring their own trainers and use it anytime they like. And it can actually be used for, you know, your customer service employees as well, and just work on them in dealing with individuals that come to the desk that are really upset. So this is going to be outstanding when we get it. We're excited about it, and we're going to use it. We're also going to use it for the public. So some of these folks who question how law enforcement deals with things, we're going to give them a run in the simulator and say, hey, take a look at it, see what it's like to encounter this type of event. And then I think the positive of that is one, they're going to actually experience and probably come out saying, whoa, that's not like I thought it was. But two, we'll get some feedback too. We'll say, let us know if you have some ideas on how we can do this better. So we're excited when we get it. I expect all of you to go through. So be ready.
When do you anticipate getting it?
Well, we won't actually purchase that until we get our building up. And that is, we're told our building will be ready by July 1. So, and we'll purchase it before then. And then we'll come in and do installation because it's going to be fixed to a training room. We're going to have a huge training room there, and it's going to be fixed to that. So.
So this is not going to be in the trailer, actually, it's in the building.
Yes, sir, it's going to be in the building. In fact, you know what? This is a pretty good idea of kind of what it's like because this thing's kind of semicircle. So it'll be attached to walls like that, and you have the ability to fold in, if you need to, the panels.
Practice before coming here, too.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Well, I have to tell you, I've done that a couple of times, and it is an eye-opener.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that you're gonna have the public use that, because then that way they can see the scenarios that the
Yeah.
deputies are going through. But I also know that they used to have mobile units like that. Is there any hope of us getting one so that we can have at events on the boulevard or different events, so it's getting out more often as opposed to people having to make appointments to come in and
So-
use it with you guys?
Yes, ma'am. We can certainly take a look, and I know one good thing is the Sheriff's Department, they actually, I think it's their MET unit, their mental evaluation teams have those, and we've used it. We've done some things at the high school, believe it or not, Palmdale High School, where they brought it, and we gave kids a chance to kind of go through and see what it is to deal with somebody who's, you know, angry or uncooperative. So we have access to those occasionally, but that's something we'll look at because that's a great idea for us to be able to, you know, get more public through on the boulevard and
Yeah,
at
definitely,
events.
because like I said, I've used that, and the more people can understand how quick you guys have to think, and they'll maybe have a little bit more respect.
Yes, ma'am. We'll definitely take a look at that. So,
On a couple, I actually had a couple other questions for you.
Sure.
Your law enforcement technicians now, is there any way, now that they're taking calls now, I'm assuming those are the report calls that they're handling, is there any way that maybe monthly you can start reporting numbers on what kind of calls they're taking so that we're aware of that, how many calls they're taking, so we can see how it's helping them as well, and that the deputies,
I
the
think we
sheriff's
can
stations
probably do
see
that,
it.
right, Paul? And maybe have the desk track. I think the way they're doing it currently, and let me know if I'm wrong, is they'll go to the desk, and the desk will say, okay, we've got this lineup of calls. that normally would sit in what we call a buffer or a deputy's computer until he can get to it. And they're just saying, here you go, these are, 7, 8 calls that folks need help, reports taken, and they just head on their way. And let the desk know, okay, I'm at this address, I'm leaving, I'm at this address, I'm leaving. So we should be able to track that, you think, Paul, and keep
Yeah, it'd be
account?
nice to see how the timeframe is changing and getting better with, obviously, these technicians aboard and, maybe even numbers on how your flock cameras are assisting as well. Your illegal after-hours club, are you finding that you're still dealing with repeat offenders, for lack of a better word, or?
We're not getting too many repeat offenders because, when we finally go in, they have a lot to deal with besides law enforcement. I mean, we'll bring in the tax department and everybody, we'll bring in IRS and everybody else. But I know some motorcycle clubs have kind of been repeat offenders, but we've even been able to get them to stop. The last one we dealt with, they shut down their location, and we were able to see that in our intelligence look. But then later that night, several hours later, we just noticed that they brought it to another club's location. So now we're going to go deal with that club and say, okay, you want to give these parties and these after-hours events, you're going to have to come through the city and get the licensings and permitting. So, but we've been really successful in getting them to stop. What's interesting is we've also seen them go south to Palmdale. So being the good partners we are, we call down there and say, hey, they were doing business here. They're headed down to your neck of the woods. This is who they are and what they're looking to do, and even where they're going if we can see that. So, yeah.
And how many law enforcement technicians did you said you have?
We have 6. Is it 6, Paul?
Correct, there's 6.
6. We have 6, yeah, and we'd like to increase that because that's a big thing with the public.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
So dovetailing on what Commissioner McCracken, the point she made, I had the good fortune a few years ago, the Sheriff's Department allowed me to take a spin on their simulator. It's eye-opening, it's breathtaking how different the frame of reference is when you're put in that position. And what I'm thinking is terrific training, but also terrific public education opportunity. That I wish more and more people had a sense of what these decisions are like and how quickly they have to be made and how consequential they are. I'm thinking that, in this day and age of apps and things like that, this might even be something that could be made far more publicly available and it proved to be very engaging and educational. Anyway, just a thought.
Yes, sir. No, thank you very much. In fact, that might be the biggest value. Well, the officers getting that training and experience is going to be the biggest value, but it's going to be real instrumental and important to get the public in there. We're going to start citizens academies once we get that up and running. I know the Sheriff's Department does them already. We're going to get with them and do some ourselves as well, and every individual get a chance to go through that. Yes, sir.
I think it definitely help before, those of us lay people second guess decisions and what that experience is like.
Yes, sir. Any other questions? All righty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, legislative updates.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Senator Wilk has introduced so far a couple of bills. The introduction to bills is due by February 16th, so we'll have more on the next meeting that we have. The first one that I'd like to talk about is the SB 996, Sex Education Transparency. This bill will require that school districts post sexual education materials on their website for parents to review. This will ensure that parents can easily decide if the material is appropriate for their child and opt out of the unit if necessary. The second one is SB 1004, Wildfire Settlement Tax Exemption. This bill will exempt all settlements paid to victims of wildfire from state taxes. This will only be applicable to wildfires on January 1st of 2020 or after. This is kind of it will be a work in progress throughout the year and we'll most likely see some amendments. And that's all I have with you today. Any questions for us?
I have a quick question. There's some activity involving the rescinding of Proposition 47. And I'm not sure if that's a legislative action or if it's going to be an initiative. What do you know about that you could educate us?
So Senator Wilk has not, we haven't been made aware of any actions that he has made, but I will get that information over to you if you'd like.
Happy Valentine's from Assemblyman Lackey. I don't know that he'd say that, but I'm saying it for him. Speaking of Prop 47, the Assemblyman is seeing some traction in not rescinding the whole bill, but altering it significantly. They don't have any specific wording yet, but I will get you information on that as soon as they do have wording for that. So we haven't heard about the whole thing being rescinded. I will check again, but definitely that was on my report that they are making traction on getting some wording that will put more teeth back into the law enforcement. Yeah.
I understand Assemblyman Joe Patterson has a bill dealing with domestic violence. You know, one of the things coming out of many of these mass shootings, most mass shooters have a history of domestic violence.
Yeah. He's
He's got a bill that would remove domestic violence offenders from being eligible for the early releases under 109, 47, 57.
That's great.
I think that's a good bill to look into.
Yeah,
Don't
no
know the
kidding.
number, but-
For sure. A little more, so again, as Angelica said, our total bill package is not due until the 16th, so they are still making some planets align before they give the final word on that. But the Amber Alert bill, we got a little more information on that, and it would give law enforcement access to the automated license plate reader cameras for the purpose of finding the missing persons. So I don't know how it works, but apparently you don't have access if you're not in the area. And so this way they would have that already if there was an Amber Alert. So that would be a huge improvement. The Assemblyman is also co-author for AB 316, which is an autonomous vehicle bill. And his years in the CHP just do not let him embrace the autonomous vehicle completely. And because he just sees how many mistakes we make too. So, but this would require that an autonomous vehicle would have over 10,001 pounds, would have a human driver in there also that has all of the certifications to operate the vehicle, so that they would be there in case of an emergency. This bill has gone through before in another form, so they're hoping that this, but it did not pass. So this, they're hoping will have the changes made so that it will pass, because he just feels like it's important, especially in the testing stages, that there's a human being in the vehicle to take over if there is a problem. And that is all I have for today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? No? Okay. We are now at public business from the floor for non-agenda items. Okay. Going once, going twice, okay. Commissioner comments, Commissioner McCracken? Okay. Commissioner Hurd?
No comments.
No? Okay. And nothing from me, so we will adjourn to the next regular meeting.